Hello airhead lovers and welcome back to Airhead Barn. We are continuing this interesting restoration project of our Survivor 1975 R90S, and today we are going to focus on a rear part of the engine. We are going to remove flywheel, inspect it. That should open a path to oil pump that we should inspect as well, and then we will replace rear main seal. Whenever you are doing this kind of work, removing a flywheel, everybody knows there is a danger of your crankshaft moving forward and that copper thrust washer falling off the pins and down the road causing some major damage to your engine. So I cannot overemphasize this enough, how important it is to block that crankshaft. For that particular case, we have here a strap that we mounted up front that should keep it stable while we are removing flywheel. Nevertheless, it's always a good idea to periodically check, as you are trying to pull that flywheel off. Some of them come easily, some not so easily. It's a good idea to check what's happening with your crankshaft. Some pullers are nicer, they pull against the case. Unfortunately, puller that I have made by CycleWorks does not do that. It pulls against that particular crankshaft, and it can basically move the crankshaft forward. So that's why it's very important to check it. All right. So without further ado, let's proceed with flywheel removal. Okay, so I'm also using this CycleWorks tool to block the flywheel so it doesn't spin as I am loosening these screws. Also, make sure that you mark exact position of your flywheel. The easiest is to put it on OT mark. Since here I have a kind of blurry OT, I was able to spot some of the markings there, but I'm not sure exactly which they are. Use whatever works best for you to mark exact position, and then also mark position of the crankshaft. Since I have a front cover off, I can see actually where my timing marks are, and it's easy to set it that way. But before you remove flywheel, that's crucial because you can actually screw up markings later. Okay, so I cleaned here around the seal just a tiny bit to prevent any of this dirt and grime coming into the case when I remove the seal. But whenever we remove the seal, we are going to cover this with a nylon and then give it a really nice bath so everything looks fresh and new. So at this point we are going to use a puller, sliding hammer puller, to remove this seal. There are different approaches here. You can drill a pilot hole here and then put a screw inside and with a sliding hammer remove that one. Or maybe you can use something basically like this, where you press against the seal, grab it with this thing, and then hopefully it comes out. So let's take a look. Nevertheless, try not to disturb crankshaft. Even though it's blocked, I would strongly suggest avoid pressing against it. Okay, unfortunately this one doesn't want to come out, so we will need to use a drill and drill a pilot hole. There it is. Finally. Okay, and now we can proceed with cleaning. Okay, so we cleaned this up to the best we could, this rear part of a case. Now we can basically take oil pump cover off, inspect oil pump, put new O-ring in. We are going to replace these screws because this is older type of screws that was Phillips, and we are going to put a hex head. Just because these can be really painful to remove. I hope we will still be able to take them out, but sometimes they are really pain in butt to take them out, and then you end up with a bad day. After that, we are going to put new rear main seal, and then finally we can put our flywheel back on. Okay, so fingers crossed. Okay, so our pump looks in pretty decent shape. I don't see any scoring here, so it can definitely be reused, and we are going to put it back. And that's true for both parts of a pump. No issues whatsoever. So that will be reused. Pump cover is the older version that has these countersinks that accommodate Phillips screws here. Hex head screws require different cover, so that one has a step here actually that Phillips head can sink inside. So that's what we will need to replace. Okay, so now we can proceed with putting oil pump cover. I have the updated version that basically has these cutouts for screws. So first, what we are going to do, we will put just tiny bit of oil smear on an O-ring that goes on a cover. Oil usually makes rubber to swollen a bit, so it provides a tiny bit better seal. Okay. And then we are going to mount this new updated cover. So keep in your mind there is straight and beveled edge. Beveled goes up. Okay. On screws you want to put a tiny bit of blue Loctite. Right. And here is now how O-ring is attached. Now we are going to torque these screws to 85 inch-pound. You can even go lighter here. 85 I believe is like 10 newton meters, but these, and also from a oil pan and filter cover, are the same screws that are used, and they are prone to stripping, so because they thread into the aluminum body. So maybe even a bit lighter than 85. So I'll put here 80 foot-pound. Okay. Okay, that should do it. Now we have hex head screws here. Next time we need to replace this o-ring, it's easy to remove them. I really didn't feel comfortable of putting back our Phillips screws, because you never know with those. If you strip the head of that Phillips screw, it can actually be a nightmare to remove it. Okay, and now finally we can put our flywheel back. Okay, now it's time to put our flywheel back on, and one thing to keep on your mind is to first orient it correctly. Second, we are just going to put tiny bit of oil at this part of a flywheel that engages with the seal, so it attaches properly. I have new screws here, but for this particular case I think you should be fine, you know, reusing your screws if they are not damaged. These screws that are here used are updated screws, so they are 11 millimeters. Change year was 75 when they changed from 10 millimeters to 11. These are luckily 11 millimeters. And now we can put this part back on. This type of flywheel does not have a groove here for the o-ring, so that's not something that we are going to use. Okay, so it's fully seated, and this is how we had it. There are also markings here. I have a blue here on a crankshaft and white here, so everything is perfectly aligned, and our OT is in our window, so we can go ahead and put our bolts in. Okay, our flywheel is now blocked, and we can go and tighten these bolts to 75 foot-pounds. So now you can check if your flywheel freely spins. Which this one is, and that's great. Okay, so with that we concluded this video of changing rear main seal and inspecting oil pump. Next thing that we are going to do, we will remove engine from the frame and put it on a table. The reason for that is I want to change chain and timing chain, and it's totally doable on a bike as well, but it's fiddly job and it's much easier to do it when you have it on a bench. So that's why I'm going to remove the engine. We will remove cylinders and heads and inspect them as well, and that's the plan for some of the next episodes. I hope you like this, and thanks for joining us.